and then turning them down just makes sure that you don't burn your muffins. Hello everyone, thank you for coming or for coming back. Today I'm going to show you how to make apple muffins, and I'm also going to show you a few little tricks so that you can make a bakery style muffin with that traditional sort of big, nice, crunchy muffin top. So all of the ingredients and measurements are listed down below and we can start baking. So starting with a large bowl with our flour in it, we are going to add our brown sugar and our white sugar. I like to use two different types of sugar here because the brown sugar really makes sure that your muffin is nice and moist, and the white sugar helps lead to a really nice crunchy top to your muffin. So you're going to go ahead and give this a little whisk together, and then you're going to add in your butter. So you can see my butter is already cut into small cubes because we are going to rub this butter in like we do with so many other different things. So we want to make sure that this butter ends up in sort of a long, thin flake. Now, before adding any of our other ingredients, we are going to set aside some of this flour, sugar, butter mixture for our topping. I know I said I don't like to measure in volume, but this doesn't need to be super accurate, so you're going to set aside about 1/4 cup of this for the topping, and to the topping we are going to add half of our spice mixture. Here I have cinnamon, nutmeg, and a tiny bit of clove, but you can just go with cinnamon if you like. I just sort of liked the extra couple spices for the flavor. So half of that to our topping, and then we can set the topping aside for later and go back to our muffin base. So to our muffin base, we are going to add our baking soda, baking powder, and a pinch of salt, and give it a whisk together, and then we will work on our wet ingredients. So for the wet ingredients, we've got milk, egg, and vanilla. We're going to go ahead and beat that together with a fork just to make sure that we break up our egg. And the last part of this muffin is the apples. Now you should use an apple that is nice and crisp, something that you would normally use for baking. I'm a big fan of Granny Smith apples, but you can use something like a Cortland apple or a honeycrisp apple, just something that will keep its texture after it bakes in the oven without turning into mush, because we do want a little bit of that crispy apple feel in our muffins. Now, instead of just tossing the spice and the apples into our batter, I am first tossing the apples in the spice because I want the spice to sort of be concentrated around the apples. It will get mixed into the batter a little bit when we mix everything together, but I do want it to be a little bit stronger around the apple. Now, if the fruit I was adding to my muffins was something like a berry, then I would definitely be a little bit more delicate in this part, but apples are pretty tough, so I just went ahead and threw my wet ingredients as well as my apples in the muffin batter and mixed it all together. You want to mix this until just combined. Definitely don't want to overmix this. Now we are ready to portion out our muffins, and this is where the next trick comes in. So in order to get that really nice, beautiful, big muffin top, to get the traditional muffin profile, we are going to have to overfill our muffin cups. And in order to keep them from overflowing and just spilling over, we are going to contain the little bit of overflow. Now you could do this by using a fancy muffin tray that has like an extra little ridge on it. But if you already have a muffin tray like I do, then a really simple way to get this extra ridge is just by using one of these large mason jar screw tops. Now, if you do a lot of canning or make a lot of jams, then you might already have some of these, but you can also just buy a pack of just the lids. So all you're going to do is take one of these lids and put one around each of the muffin cups. This is pretty much the perfect size to fit around a standard muffin tin. I am also going to leave one without a lid so that I can show you what it looks like if you don't use the lid a little bit later. Not because I ran out of lids and only had this many, but I just wanted to show you the comparison. So now you are going to fill up your muffin cups. As I said, we're going to overfill these, so this should be pretty much completely full in the cup. This recipe makes exactly 6 muffins, so all you have to worry about is dividing it evenly. And then we are going to top this with our streusel. I do think it's important to make sure that there's a little bit of butter on top of each of the muffins from the streusel to make sure that it cooks nicely. And then just because these are so super full, I like to bake it on a baking tray so that nothing drips over and gets on the bottom of the oven. Now these are ready to bake, which is where our next trick comes in. So we are going to start these in the oven at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to turn the temperature down to 350 and keep them going until they are done baking. So starting these at a higher temperature really helps them to rise up all the way, and it also helps for the crust to sort of start forming, and then turning them down just makes sure that you don't burn your muffins. Now to check that these are done, I normally just sort of poke the top and I can tell by the spring, but you can also check it with a toothpick test. Do try and make sure you do check it somehow because these do have cinnamon in them, so they will be a little bit darker, so you probably can't tell by just the color that they are done. Now while they are still hot, I like to take a knife and run it around the sides just to make sure that it will come loose later on, but then you're going to leave them to cool in the pan. Now I know it's really tempting to eat one of these hot, but you need to let it cool down completely for the crust to form to get that nice sort of crunchy top to your muffin. Once these are fully cooled, you can take them out of the tin and take the ring off, and you can see how beautiful and big and perfect your muffin top is. I know I've just been talking about the top, but the whole muffin is pretty good too. And here I will also show you the comparison to the muffin that wasn't baked in a ring. You can see that it is pretty similar from the side profile, if maybe a little bit shorter, but if you look at the top, you can definitely tell that there was a little bit of spilling over, so this is why I really like using the rings for this. And here are your nice, beautiful apple muffins. These honestly smell just like apple cider from the spices in them, and you can see from the cross section that they have so many nice, beautiful little apple chunks that are still intact and have not turned to mush. So these are definitely leaning towards the fall flavors, but like I said, they smell exactly like apple cider, so why would you not want to make them now? So I hope you make these, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.